That, of course, Alec Baldwin playing Donald Trump, as he continues to do now after the election, as he did before. There are many who felt if this had started earlier on, that Trump never would have made it to this point, or perhaps if Jon Stewart was still doing The Daily Show or Stephen Colbert still on Comedy Central. But this issue of satire and Donald Trump tweeting after that, after the scene we just played, Trump tweeting, "It was a totally one-sided bias show, nothing funny at all, equal time for us." How serious this is, Robert Reich?
On one level, it simply reveals a very thin-skinned and vindictive person on the part of Donald Trump, who doesn't have any sense of humor. But on a deeper level, there are some real dangers here, because a president and administration, particularly when the administration and Congress are of the same party, does have some power in terms of the Federal Communications Commission and other agencies that could make it difficult for a particular broadcaster to function. And by saying equal time for our side, that's a kind of ironic comment, because the equal time rule by the FCC is gone. Donald Trump really dominated all of the news coverage during the campaign, was given free time by the media. Satire also is probably one of the most effective means of criticizing any person in power, whether that person is elected or takes power. Traditionally, through time, satire has been incredibly useful and important. To criticize people who are using satire, again, in a very, very fundamental way, potentially turns the public against these individuals. Donald Trump has tweeted against Alec Baldwin specifically and personally, and those personal tweets could potentially have some damage. I do know that people who have criticized Donald Trump in various ways, and then Donald Trump has tweeted against them, have in turn received threats, including death threats, from some of Trump's followers. We don't want to have in this country that kind of chilling effect on free speech or on satire or any form of free speech.
We'll be back with UC Berkeley professor Robert Reich, former labor secretary under President Clinton, in a minute.
Through southwestern towns that I had been in before, sun split amber and fields that span forever.
Natural Blue by Julie Byrne. Here on Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. We are speaking to former Labor Secretary Robert Reich, who recently wrote a piece headlined Trump's 7 Techniques to Control the Media. I asked him about Donald Trump's response to what happened when Vice President-elect Mike Pence attended the Broadway hit Hamilton shortly after the election. At the end of the show, actor Brandon Victor Dixon, who plays Aaron Burr, read a message for Pence from the stage.
Vice President-elect Pence, we welcome you, and we truly thank you for joining us here at Hamilton, an American Musical. We really do. We are the diverse America who are alarmed and anxious that your new administration will not protect us, our planet, our children, our parents, or defend us and uphold our inalienable rights, sir. But we truly hope that this show has inspired you to uphold our American values and to work on behalf of all of us. All of us.
Donald Trump responded to the Hamilton message by tweeting, "The cast of Hamilton was very rude last night to a very good man, Mike Pence. Apologize." I asked former Labor Secretary Robert Reich to respond.
There was nothing about that note, as I read about it and read the content of that note, that was harassing. In fact, it was very dignified, very modest. It simply expressed the cast's hope because the cast of that Broadway show is very diverse, multiracial, multi-ethnic. Their hope that the Trump administration would be sensitive to their concerns about not being hateful and not promoting racism. And for Donald Trump to jump on that cast and to say that they owe Michael Pence an apology and that this was in some way inappropriate also has a potential to chill freedom of speech. If any other set of performers want to say something that is slightly critical or at least signal their discontent in some way with the Trump administration, are they going to be faced with a deluge of similar tweets or similar criticisms? And what is the consequence of those tweets and criticisms, not only in terms of audiences in the future? I don't think there's any problem of Hamilton getting a very, very large audience. But what about playwrights and casts and producers that are struggling to attract audiences or are worried about even about threats that may come back to them because of Donald Trump's outrage. You see how delicate this all is, Amy. Our freedom of the press depends on a lot of tacit norms and understandings between people in power, the president, a president-elect, and the public at large, and the press itself. The press is called the Fourth Estate. It's called the Fourth Estate because it has almost governmental functions in terms of being outside the government, but being able to criticize what is happening in the government so the public is aware of potential problems. Without that freedom of the press, as the framers of the Constitution understood, we cannot have a fully functioning democracy.
Your number 5 in Trump's 7 techniques to control the media is threatening the media directly. Threatening to sue. For example, what the New York Times wrote about him when it came to his tax returns and when it came as well to accusations that women made of him directly assaulting them.
Donald Trump's mentor for many years, when he was a younger man, was a fellow named Roy Cohn, a lawyer in New York who was also an assistant, had been an assistant to Senator Joe McCarthy during the McCarthy's witch hunts, communist witch hunts in the 1950s. What Roy Cohn did always, over and over again, was sue people, issued lawsuits, libelous lawsuits often when there was anything in the paper that was critical of Roy Cohn or his clients. Donald Trump apparently internalized this and has a history of mounting lawsuits. But when you are a president-elect or when you're a candidate, and certainly when you're president, you cannot go around trying to intimidate the press and issuing lawsuits or threatening lawsuits because they say something that you don't like about them. And this is what Trump did during the campaign. He also has threatened to expand the libel laws, making it easier, he says, for somebody like him to sue the media. And you, again, presumably that lawsuit would be based upon something that the media reported that he did not like to be reported, didn't want to be reported. Again, a very, very dangerous threat.
Number 6 is limiting media access. You point out Trump hasn't had a news conference since July, when he famously called on Russia to hack Hillary Clinton's email. Let's take a listen.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press.
So that's Donald Trump at his last news conference, and he hasn't held one since. He's also said that as president, he won't necessarily be having daily press briefings, you know, his press secretary. But you talk out about how he's blocked the media from traveling with him. You talk about his first conversation with Putin, where it actually first was reported. It wasn't in the United States.
Yes, it's interesting and indicative that that first conversation with Putin, which took place right after he was elected, was reported by the Kremlin. first, not by any United States media. Donald Trump doesn't like the media. He doesn't want to be confronted by the media. He doesn't want to have news conferences. 3 days after he was elected, Barack Obama had his first news conference. 3 days after he was elected and the Supreme Court decided that election, George W. Bush had his first news conference. Donald Trump has not had a news conference since July. He hasn't had any news conference since he was elected. You see, what he wants to avoid here is being ganged up on. He's desperately afraid that there might be a variety of questions coming from various news organizations about the same set of issues, and that would make him look and feel less powerful. And so, like many and I use this word advisedly, many dictators or tyrants in history who don't want to have news conferences, they don't want to be bombarded with questions from the press. Donald Trump is avoiding the possibility that he will have many different news outlets asking him and pummeling him with questions. He doesn't want that possibility.
And finally, you talk about bypassing the media and communicating with the public directly, as he does with tweets, as he does with his rallies, which he seems to be continuing. In fact, just this past weekend, another victory rally. I wanted to play a clip.
Michelle Obama said yesterday that there's no hope. But I assume she was talking about the past, not the future, because I'm telling you, we have tremendous hope.
That was Donald Trump this weekend at yet another victory rally, which he used to attack Michelle Obama, the First Lady. Robert Reich.
Donald Trump's modus operandi seems to be to communicate directly with followers and with the public through tweets and through rallies, and he signaled that he wants to continue to use rallies even after January 20th, when he becomes president. The problem for the free press is that the more you have a president who is communicating directly through tweets and rallies, the less able are the press or is the media, to be able to intermediate. I mean, the word media comes from the term intermediation, which is speaking truth to power. It's actually intermediating between the powerful and the public, so that the powerful can be held accountable, so that they can be asked questions on behalf of the public, so that there can be criticism voiced, where individual members of the public don't have the power to do that. They are just sort of a very, very large group of individuals who, none of whom has the power to talk back. That's why the intermediaries, the media, are so important. But if you have a president who is communicating absolutely directly with the public, bypassing all of those intermediaries, then you have potentially a situation in which what that president says cannot be questioned. The truth cannot get out. And the fear is that that's ultimately what Donald Trump wants, to be able to continue to state things that are simply not true. Doubting climate change, for example, or saying that the CIA report on Russian hacking was not true, and have a larger and larger number of his followers, and indirectly their friends and their associates and families believe him and not believe science, and not believe the media, not believe policy analysts, and not believe people who are investigative reporters, and not believe the actual facts out there, believe this counter universe that is of Donald Trump's creation.